Here I am, still here. Not going to be going anywhere, just in case you were remembering what I mentioned yesterday on the program about a possible part-time controller job. Well, that was more of a consultant. It isn't even a position. It's more of the ad was in essence for a high-level financial consultant, kind of like a non-staff chief financial officer. That's what it turned out to be, which I kind of got that impression from rereading the ad, but I thought I'd talk to the guy in question, and it pretty much confirmed what I thought. Plus, he already mentioned he's got a couple of people who were better fits for the offer than I am, so I thanked him for his time, and that's that. Which leaves me in the same bewilderment I've been in for, well, a year and a half, almost. Certainly. It'll be a year and a half on December the 6th. You see, for the first 6 months of this odyssey of unemployment, I every day I prayed and I asked the same question: Lord, what do you want me to do? Another accounting job, or am I finally free to pursue a collaboration on air and in pixels at politicalpistachio.com on Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs? And I said, whatever you want, Lord, just guide my feet wherever you want me to go. That's where I'll go. And then a miracle occurred, and another accounting job opened up for me. I was hired. And then, of course, as you all know, go back and listen to my opening monologue on the March 7th, 2014 edition of Hard Starboard Radio. It was ripped away from me with no explanation whatsoever. So, leaving me with some paranoid possibilities and some really, that was it? Because I was only there for 6 days, so I didn't have a chance to screw anything up. 1 week is not enough time unless I was just going to make it a new practice to show up at work stark naked. Or, blatantly hit on female coworkers, which I don't do, never have, never will. So, it was it's ever since then it's just been a bewilderment. That seemed to be the coda to my accounting career. It's like, okay, well, the answer to that question. Now, don't forget, as I mentioned yesterday, on the very same day, that was when Doug's, I don't know if you would call it a career, but that's when Doug's job driving a sand and gravel truck for FST Sand and Gravel down in SoCal, of course. That's when that ended. Because he was sideswiped by a pickup, it screwed up his back, and so he can't drive a sand and gravel truck anymore. In fact, some days he still has difficulty sitting for longer than 20 or 30 minutes at a time. So if he's driving someplace, and of course he's driving someplace pretty much every day, if you go to politicalpistachio.com and you look up the Constitution Tuesday post, he's all over the place today, folks. But including the Constitution class at All-Star Collision in Corona, California, so you might want to drop by there if you are in the Gibbs pocket and have the opportunity. Take advantage of it, folks. There's nobody who knows the United States Constitution. There's nobody living. I would imagine James Madison probably knew the Constitution better than Mr. Gibbs, but in terms of people actually living, nobody understands the United States Constitution better than Douglas Vernon Gibbs, or just Doug Gibbs, as I I'm trying to get back into the habit of referring to him because I'm just not a formal guy, all right? You know, it might say Douglas V. Gibbs on, well, he doesn't have a diploma, but if he did, it would say Douglas V. Gibbs. Just like my full name and legal name and initial and last name are on my degree, my bachelor's degree, and my professional membership certificates, and my CPA license, which I still have. I don't know, you may wonder, well, why do you bother keeping any of that stuff? I mean, that costs money to maintain those. Because I work so damn hard for them, that's why. I mean, you can make the case that wow, look at it rain. Oh yeah, I should mention this, folks. If I pull one of these, yeah, that didn't work. Let's try this again. Hold on a second. I'll get down here eventually. If I pull one of these, sometime during the next couple of hours, it is absolutely, as I'm looking out my broadcasting studio window, I mean, it's like monsoon rains. It is just pouring. And when I say pouring, I don't mean the usual rain we get up here in the Puget Sound area of western Washington, the Seattle area, where it's just kind of, just kind of sprinkling or a spitting or a drizzle. This is like about 2 steps below the animals are starting to line up 2 by 2. And I hope it's not continuing to rain this hard when intern G Hart leaves for the dinner shift in half an hour or so, because boy, he's gonna be drenched. He might drown on his way out to his car. So, but yeah, right now it is absolutely monsooning outside the broadcasting studios of Hart Starboard Galactic Headquarters, and I might add, there are high winds as well, and that is what may wind up causing me to disappear. Temporarily, periodically, who knows, permanently, I don't know. I mean, that's the way power outages work in adverse weather conditions. I mean, a number of years ago, right around Christmas, a little before, a little after, I can't remember. I do remember it was in December. And I think it was before Christmas, because I remember when we went to stay at the hotel up the road in Buckley, Washington, after freezing our asses off. Let me start at the beginning. Other than to mention that the movie on the hotel room TV was The Grinch That Stole Christmas. So I think it was before Christmas. I don't know, it's like 2008, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in that range. So call it mid-December. Periodically we get up here on the outskirts of the Cascade Mountain Range, what they call Chinook winds in the winter, when the temperature zooms up to 50 or 60 degrees, and the winds blow like, well, almost hurricane force, 50, 60 mile per hour gusts, so almost hurricane level. And there are a lot of trees around here, and so on that particular occasion, the power went out, and it was out for 4 days. Now, and I forgot to mention, then it got cold. Very cold for around here. It got down in the teens and 20s in the daytime. And of course, our heat is electric, We don't have gas. It's all electric. So, of course, if we did have gas, there wouldn't be any electricity for the furnace. So it's 601, I guess. And we don't have a generator because it doesn't happen often enough to justify it. Although on those rare occasions when it does happen, you wish you had it. But in the big picture, it's not justifiable. And so power went out for 4 days, and we were freezing our asses off. And it turned out that what caused the power outage, you see, the power companies, they start at the center of the biggest population center in the region and work outwards. And where I live is in the exurbs of Seattle, the Seattle-Tacoma metroplex. Not the suburbs, the exurbs. It's the next step. The next step beyond exurbs is rural country, area. And so they start in Seattle and they work outwards, which is why it took them 4 days to finally figure out that what caused my power to go out was a tree branch about 2 blocks away from Hard Starboard Galactic Headquarters. That's right, 2 blocks away. It's one of those things where you get in the big picture, why it took so long, and I got to look at the whole region, not just me, but it was really frustrating to find that out, that it was, it's a branch that fell on a power line 2 blocks away from my house. So anyway, if I disappear periodically or even once, temporarily or permanently, for today's podcast, now you know why that's the case. Just warning you in advance, because I saw the power flicker a couple of times, 2-3 times, during the show open. So, you have been warned, you have been informed. This is the Hard Starboard Radio Network. At blogtalkradio.com/HSR Network, I am your host, Jasmius, your ruler, your benevolent despot, your fountain rabbi of conservatism, constitutionalism, Christianity, and common sense. Emphasis on the Christianity today. Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Guest call-in number, 646-478-5068. Email address, jasmius@comcast.net, especially if you want any of the 200 episodes of Constitution Radio's run on KCAA, AM 1050, San Bernardino, Loma Linda, California, because I'm the only one that's got the podcast. Just send it, specify in the body of the email what dates you want, and I'll be happy to send them to you. Free of charge, unless you want all 200 at once, which is going to take a while, and I might have to charge you for that. But just let me know. I'll send them to you. Jasmius@comcast.net. That's JASMIUS@comcast.net. And our YouTube channels are up to date. YouTube.com/ No, wait a minute. No, okay. Okay, I said they were up. They are now updated through last week. I still haven't done the upload to youtube.com/hardstarboardradio for last week's most listened to podcast. But I still have that to do, but youtube.com/American Daily Review 2, the home of each 3-hour Saturday afternoon extravaganza, is fully up to date. Did that upload last night, so that's done. So it's just last week's most listened to podcast video, Jasmius cam footage, to youtube.com/hardstarboardradio. But like I say, circling back around, I'm kind of bewildered. I'm just wondering. Okay, the accounting career is destroyed, and Doug's endeavors continue to go nowhere. Well, nowhere financially. I'm not going to say they go nowhere. He has some impact in the Gibbs pocket. He has an impact in Riverside County, California, but I mean, in terms of what of his aspirations and his ambitions, which I share, you know, because I mean, he's busy all the time. He just doesn't make any money from it. Whereas I keep myself busy, but I'm not busy like he's busy. First, on the other hand, I can keep my bills paid for the moderately distant future, while, well, let's just say he can't. You talk about living on a shoestring, my friends. I tell you what, all you deep-pocketed conservatives in Southern California who keep telling Mr. Gibbs you love what he's doing, cough up. Put your money where your mouths are. Pull Mr. Gibbs out of the ditch. Send him to the stars. Launch the Starship Pistachio. Finally. And then my dinghy's already got its, my runabout has already got its tractor beam attached to it. So, you know, let us move on with our lives and second careers. I don't know how many careers. Well, I guess if you don't want it, you could. No, I take that back. Doug has had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 careers. And they've all been failures. Or either been failures or he bailed out on them foolishly and should have stuck with them. And then now he's on his 6th career, which is highly successful other than the fact that he doesn't get paid for anything beyond what books he can sell. So come on. Donors to the Center for the Study of the United States Constitution through the auspices of the American Freedom Alliance, where Mr. Gibbs is both a fellow and he's a director of the Center for the Study of the United States Constitution. Come on. Well, let me do this correctly. Oh, here we go. Cough up. Give us your money. That's the only thing we're waiting for. Everything else is in place. Papers filed, organization created. By the way, you may or may not have noticed the lights just flickered again. So, but cough up, come on! It's time to start get this show on the road. Because quite honestly, I am frickin' sick and tired of waiting. And if I'm sick and tired of waiting, you can imagine how sick and tired Mr. Gibbs is of waiting. So let's get on the stick. Pour money into the Center for the Studies of the United States Constitution. If you believe in what Mr. Gibbs is doing, as I do, and as you claim to, then you got no excuse. So fork over. And download all our podcasts. blogtalkradio.com/HSR Network. 8.5 years. In fact, it'll be 8.5 years on Thanksgiving Day. Which, believe it or not, will also be Mrs. Hard Starbird's and my 27th anniversary. Hey! There you go. And 6 1/3 years at blogtalkradio.com/American Daily Review. The kickoff and first 2 hours of the 3-hour Saturday afternoon extravaganza. And, of course, every podcast since our move to KMET 1490am.com of Constitution Radio. It's all there at KMET 1490am.com. So you can get every episode of the local show with a global footprint by going to KMET 1490am.com and sending an email to me letting me know you want all the 200 KCAA episodes, and then we will go from there. And speaking of going from there, maybe if I have time today, I'll go through some of these. I'm looking at 16 of the worst ways to respond to ISIS Paris attack at thefederalist.com. But some of these are really stupid. I mean, you talk about ideological zealots for whom their ideology is all, the narrative is all, and they demand that reality conform to their delusional narrative. I mean, I have never seen a better example of what Michael Savage once said about liberalism being a mental disorder. Uh, oh, there. Let me. Let's see. Where did I find it here? I'll just share a couple with you. Dan Kimmel. In fact, I think this is what got him resigned from the Minnesota State House of Representatives. He tweeted, "ISIS isn't necessarily evil. It is made up of people doing what they think is best for their community. Violence is not the answer, though." Jesus. And then this one, Michael Cohen tweeted, "But look, if people want to make it harder for the U.S. to be hit by a Paris-style attack, strengthen gun laws!" Oh man, I don't dare get any deeper into that because I'll never get back out again. It's just, although it does merit one of these. Oh boy. And that's the mentality that is running the country. That's the mentality that is commander-in-chief. In fact, you want to know something? Another quote. In fact, I'm surprised that I didn't see this before now. At that press conference where Barack Obama was just I mean, he was almost hounded off the stage. The media actually was challenging him. The media was actually incredulous that when he said that, well, my strategy is the right strategy, and I'm going to stick with this strategy even though it's failing miserably. What other thing he said in the process of that rant? He actually said, I mean, here's the lead on this it's actually a Federalist.com news story. During a press conference detailing his administration's strategy to destroy ISIS following several devastating terrorist attacks in Paris, Barack Obama said he's, and I swear I'm not making this up. Like Dave Barry, I know it's Dave Barry's catchphrase. I'm sorry, I don't know what other words to use. Barack Obama actually said he's not interested in pursuing some notion of American leadership or America winning. Well, there it is. And if America doesn't win, then America loses, doesn't it? He's not interested in American leadership. Without American leadership, ISIS wins. How does ISIS win? By killing us all. That's how. He's not interested in America winning. He actually said that. See, I'll tell you what, when he doesn't get challenged by the media, he gets away with all his BS. He gets away with all the lies, all the phony, baloney, plastic, banana, good time, rock and roll crap. But when he gets challenged, when he gets to shove the slightest bit outside his comfort zone, he shows you what's underneath. He shows it. There it is, right there. I'm not interested in pursuing some notion of American leadership or America winning. Hey, we've known that for 8 years. You know, if any of you out there in the media who are welcome to the party, guys and gals. Also, if you may have noticed the cap I'm wearing, this one has been retired. It's a keepsake. It's a souvenir, but it's no longer relevant. And the one I am wearing is very appropriate. I'll probably be wearing it pretty consistently from now on. It says, "You can always tell a German, but you can't tell him much." And that I tell you what, that ought to be the motto for this program. And before you misunderstand, I'm not talking about Angela Merkel German. I mean me German. It's most fitting. I tell you, the days in which we live, it reminds me vividly, that's because this is prophetic, of the 3 stages that God gives a people over to when they reject Him and His Word. In Romans chapter 1, verses 21 through 32. First is rampant sexual immorality. We had that back in the 60s. The second is rampant homosexuality, and that became rampant in the 80s and has just grown ever since. Now, of course, and the third thing is a mind that cannot think straight. Or, as was said of the pre-flood world, men's hearts were only evil continually. And that's what we're seeing. I mean, with transgenderism, with 58 different genders, and, gender is whatever you want it to be. No, it's genetic. And just, we see it with re-electing Barack Obama in 2012. We see it with this, what I just got through describing, just got through talking about. The left has its ideology and its narrative and its agenda, and it is completely disconnected from reality, but they demand that reality conform to them and their ideology and their narrative and their agenda. They will not conform to reality. If reality is not going to cooperate, then they're disconnected from reality. The world must work the way they think it should. And here's an example of it right here. Remember the Canadian elections last month? Conservative Prime Minister Stephen Harper in office for, a decade? And then he was cashiered. Why? Because he was mean or something. Or autocratic, or he sounded suspiciously like what Tea Partiers said about John Boehner, but... And so Canadian voters tossed out the Conservatives and brought back the Liberals. And remember the last Liberal Prime Minister, Liberal Party up in Canada? Remember the name of the last Liberal Prime Minister of Canada? Jean Cretin, or as I refer to him, Jean Cretin, because he was a cretin, all right. Well, And now the Liberals are back with Boy Trudeau, as I refer to him. Justin Trudeau, son of Pierre Trudeau, a Canadian Prime Minister back in the 70s. And boy, he's not wasting any time. He's hit the ground running in the wrong direction. Canada's new left-wingnut Prime Minister announces Trans-Pacific Pipeline. Which, well, that's not what he announced, but that's the only way of which I can conceive that the heretofore booming Canadian energy sector isn't going to be completely shut down by Boy Trudeau's declaration that he's going to ban oil tankers off of Canada's Pacific coast. You heard me correctly. Think about this for a minute. Barack Obama has killed the Keystone XL pipeline stone cold dead until at least 2017, right? And the Canadians, Stephen Harper, I mean, they just been marking time, and the Obama regime, I don't know why the State Commissariat was given oversight over this, but the State Department, State Commissary did one environmental study after another, and every single one of them said there's no environmental risk with the Keystone XL pipeline. It's safe. It's not going to break. You're not going to spill oil anyplace. It's safe. And they kept kicking it down the road. Oh, we need more study. We need another study. We need to make absolutely sure. We need to keep studying it. Until, of course, recently Barack Obama said, no. And, of course, he only said, no, after conservative Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper was thrown out of office. Now that Boy Trudeau is north of the border, in charge in Ottawa, all of a sudden, bam, Canada has a special relationship with America again. And Barack Obama and Justin Trudeau are the best of friends. And Keystone, and of course, Obama killed Keystone XL, stone cold dead until at least 2017. And maybe a lot longer, because who knows when the next Canadian election is. So if you're Canada, and you got all this oil from Alberta, from British Columbia, it's so forth, shale oil, and you're one of the biggest oil producers on the planet, and you can't send it to the United States, where are you going to send it? Well, there's only one other place that I've heard about, and that would be Red China. Well, look at a map, people. Look at a globe. How are the Canadians going to get their oil exports to Red China? Well, it's one of two ways. Either oil tankers off Canada's Pacific coast. Let me start that again. How is Canada going to get its oil exports to Red China? Well, one of two ways. Either a trans-Pacific Ocean pipeline, either along the seabed or suspended over the ocean surface, lots of luck with that, or oil tankers off of Canada's Pacific coast, which Boy Trudeau has now just banned. It doesn't leave a whole lot of options, does it? A quote is from Yahoo.com. Campaign promises often fall by the wayside once politicians make it to office, but not for Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Less than a month after his election, Canada's head of government... See, this is where the media, I'm noticing this more and more, the media doesn't edit their news reports, or they're ignorant. Because this Yahoo News story referred to Justin Trudeau as Canada's head of state. No, he's not Canada's head of state. Queen Elizabeth II is Canada's head of state. Justin Trudeau is Canada's head of government. There is a difference. Not in this country. Barack Obama is head of state and head of government, but not one branch of it. I don't want to misspeak there. But Justin Trudeau is only the head of Canadian government. He's not the Canadian head of state. That's Queen Elizabeth II. At any rate, less than a month after his election, Trudeau has put his pledge to ban oil tanker traffic into motion. In a letter published last Friday, Trudeau asked his Minister of Transportation to formalize a moratorium on crude oil tanker traffic on British Columbia's north coast, the Calgary Herald reports. Such a ban potentially could shut down the controversial Northern Gateway pipeline, in which crude oil from Alberta would be piped up north to British Columbia and then shipped overseas. That's the only way you're going to get it to Red China. A coalition of environmental groups and Aboriginal advocates applauded Trudeau's decision. Well, of course they did. Like I say, Barack Obama has already slain Keystone XL. The only other significant market for all that Canadian oil is, again, Red China. If Ottawa won't allow any oil tankers to even approach Canada's west coast, then that means either a transoceanic pipeline, whether on the seabed or suspended above the ocean surface, or tanker trucks that can drive along the bottom for thousands of miles while drivers manage to hold their breath for days and weeks at a time and avoid being crushed. Boy, I can't wait to see what the union prevailing wage for that job will be. There is, of course, another possibility that a quarter of the Canadian export economy ceases to exist. This just happens to be the approximate proportion of said Canadian economy that fossil fuels, or export economy, that fossil fuels constitutes. Now maybe this is what Boyd Trudeau meant when he said he'd fight for Keystone XL on his end, since he's cutting off all possibility of any petroleum exports to the Chicoms. Sending it south of the border is the only other option if he's to avoid deliberately plunging his country into a catastrophic economic depression. And remember, folks, if you're thinking, well, maybe they could ship it, maybe the Canadians could ship oil from their Atlantic coast. Well, why would the Atlantic coast be any different than the Pacific coast? Why would Trudeau allow oil tankers off Canada's Atlantic coast when he's banning them off their Pacific coast, huh? It's process of elimination, folks. But Barack Obama has killed Keystone XL deader than a Delta smelt. Uh-oh. Looks like we're going to have an illegal immigration problem coming across our northern border before too long as well. I've ceased asking whether these people think about what they're doing. Of course they don't. To think would require them to acknowledge reality. They don't acknowledge reality. They've never acknowledged reality. It's like I said before, a mind that cannot think straight. Okay, so now I got to scroll up. There were a couple of stories I didn't get to yesterday, and now I'm getting to them. Oh. Yeah, I'm going to do some Tea Party bashing today. I only comment on what's put in front of me, folks, or what I put in front of myself. This is what I wrote almost a month ago. The reality is, it has been for the past 5.5 years. This is at politicalpistachio.com. The reality is, it has been for the past 5.5 years that ObamaCare can and will never, ever be repealed to the tiniest degree while Barack Obama remains in power. That is not the GOP establishment's fault, and it's not Mitt Romney's fault. It is the fault of the 62 million knuckleheads who twice elected him. Thus, the best thing that a Republican Congress can do is pass a bill getting rid of as much of it as possible via the reconciliation process in the Senate to get around the inevitable Senate Democrat filibuster and force Barack Obama, whose who is protected endlessly by those Democrat filibusters, to give it the high-profile veto we need to elevate Obamacare repeal as a 2016 campaign issue and prove that a GOP Congress kept in place in 2017 can and will repeat that process for an incoming Republican president to sign into law. Does this bill repeal every last bit of ObamaCare? No, it doesn't. But that's not the point. Now, is it? And yet, for the purity fetishists of the Tea Party, it's the only point. Strategy doesn't matter to them. Reality doesn't matter to them. This is becoming a common thread, isn't it? And it seems to be bipartisan in some aspects. Actually accomplishing their avowed policy goals doesn't matter to them. They futilely demand that the process be simple, that political opposition and constitutional constraints make way, and that they get what they want by essentially the wave of a magic wand. And any Republican who's not down with that, and is down with the aforementioned House bill, they will do their best, their level best, to destroy, even or especially if it helps the Democrats. Or as D-Generation X used to put it, and if you're not down with that, we've got just 2 words for you. Suck it! Which is essentially the same thing as helping the Democrats. Well, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, for all that he's been maligned by the Tea Party, and in many cases he deserved that maligning. But not in this case. Because in this case, Mitch McConnell gets it. He wants to ram through reconciliation the repeal of every relevant and the most unpopular portions of Obamacare. The individual and employer mandates, all the taxes, including the dreaded Cadillac tax that even big labor adamantly opposes, of course, because it'll come out of their pockets. You know what they say, everybody is conservative about their own money. And get the bill to Red Berry for his 2016 campaign issue table-setting high-profile veto. Which is the whole point of the exercise, so that the GOP can win the 2016 election, take back the White House, keep the House and Senate, and be able to repeal all of Obamacare, whatever is left that can't go through reconciliation. It's called strategy. And that's how the game is played. Assuming, of course, that you want to win. Winning by any other tactic than full speed ahead, Pickett's charge-esque frontal attacks doomed to failure does not appear to be on Senate Tea Partiers' agenda, however. Which is to say, they prefer to lose and remain pure. And I just... First typo of the day. That was on Sunday, so it was probably yesterday. And yeah, here it is. Then. There. Good. Here's a quote from thehill.com. Senate GOP leaders had hoped to move a House-passed package repealing parts of the controversial health care reform law before Thanksgiving, but that plan has been shelved amid party turmoil. Senate Republican sources say the measure, which has encountered opposition from conservatives and moderates, albeit for different reasons, will have to wait until after Thanksgiving. Some say it could slide into next year. We have not scheduled that yet, a Senate GOP leadership aide said Friday. We don't have a bill yet. You're always short the votes until you have a bill. Senate Republican Whip John Cornyn of Texas told reporters last month, the week or so before Thanksgiving looks like a good opportunity to move the Obamacare repeal package. In case you haven't checked your calendars, that would be this week. And it's not moving. They didn't even have a bill yet. Now, some aides say it may be best to wait until next year or even 2017 to pass as strong a package as possible. I tell you, remember 2 years ago when Ted Cruz bullied John Boehner and Mitch McConnell into a government shutdown and promised everybody, told the whole world that he alone, Ted Cruz, would force Harry Reid to bring a full Obamacare repeal to the Senate floor for a vote, and he would force Senate Democrats to vote for it, and he would force Barack Obama to sign it. Remember that? And anybody who had any problem with that, who raised the point of, well, you know what, that's kind of delusional, it's kind of unhinged from reality, there's no way that's going to happen. Remember he smeared us as the surrender caucus? And then what happened? He got his government shut down, and Democrats didn't budge, and Republicans had to capitulate. What did that accomplish? It accomplished nothing. And it was always going to accomplish nothing. Because it was totally unhinged from reality. It was delusional. There was no way that Obamacare is... If you wanted Obamacare repealed, guess what? You should have won the 2012 election. You know how in sports, when, like the game that the Seahawks lost this past Sunday, I seem to recall that the odds of making the playoffs for the Seahawks were set at 54% if they won this past Sunday, 21% if they didn't. Well, this is very similar. If you wanted Obamacare repealed, you had to win the 2012 election. I mean, the odds were pretty good. If you could get Mitt Romney elected president and return the Senate to Republican hands, the odds were pretty good that you could get Obamacare repealed. If Barack Obama got reelected, the chances of repealing Obamacare plunge, even in the long term. But here we have an opportunity to frame Obamacare repeal as elevated as a 2016 campaign issue. Domestic policy issue. And who's standing in the way? The Tea Party. Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, and Marco Rubio, as it happens, interestingly enough. But you get the point. Which is to say, never pass. Oh yeah, with regard to wait till 2017. In other words, never pass any package at all. Ever. Suppose Republicans lose the Senate next year, due in no small part to this stupid refusal to pass 3/4 of a loaf, or lose the White House for a third straight cycle, as is looking ever more likely with each passing day. Then what would we do? Start all over again at square one, rolling back the clock to at least 2012? Failing to oust Obama then, like I say, reduce the chances of eventual Obamacare repeal dramatically. Repeating that failure in 2016 would make repeal impossible, assuming it's still possible now at all. Which the usual suspects, Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, and interestingly enough, Marco Rubio, I guess he's running for president, that was the rumor, are doing their level best to kill off with extreme prejudice. And a parenthetical word to Senator Lee. You listening, Senator? Ted Cruz is a fratricidal dick and will be pushing this self-defeating insanity anyway, but he and Rubio do have the excuse that they're running for president and, trailing as badly as they are, need to be pulling it out and stroking it for the base. What the hell is your excuse? We want to make sure that the American people know we're still on their side, and that's the reason we intend to send Obamacare repeal to the president's desk, McConnell told reporters. But he may lose as many as 5 conservatives and 3 centrists in his conference on the House-passed bill, leaving him with 46 votes, 5 short of a simple majority under reconciliation rules. I mean, it's like, you know what it reminds me of? When John McCain and the Rhinos sabotaged then Senate Majority Leader Bill Frist's move to nuke the judicial confirmation filibuster back in 2005. Remember that? The memo of understanding? When the Democrats were unconstitutionally abusing he's denying. They were obstructing George W. Bush's appellate court nominations. Only the attack on Mitch McConnell is coming from his. All right, yeah, coming from his right flank instead of his left flank. There are 5 that say you have to repeal all of Obamacare or they vote against it, and you have 3 that say you have to take Planned Parenthood out or they won't vote for reconciliation, said another Senate GOP aide. That would be Senators Mark Kirk, facing harrowing re-election prospects in Illinois. Susan Collins, the standard issue rhino, or Maine rhino, and Lisa Madkowski, the Alaska rhino who won't accept GOP primary voters' no's for an answer, you will recall from the 2010 midterm election, when she was defeated by Joe Miller for the GOP senatorial nomination and then ran as a write-in candidate and went around them. Now, Kirk, Collins, and Murkowski all support Planned Parenthood, so their motives are soiled and besmirched, but their butts are covered by the fact that they're in the American majority on that question. I'm sorry to have to tell you that, but it's true. Over 60% of Americans still support federal funding for Planned Parenthood. Center for Medical Progress is just not enough, quite obviously. Oh, there it is. Just setting up the ad cue for the top of the hour break, which we're 14 seconds away from. Which means, in turn, that tying partial Obamacare repeal to another run at defunding Planned Parenthood just creates a needless, pointless distraction that will not have public support behind it, will diminish public support for any degree of Obamacare repeal, and siphon off votes needed to pass that said partial repeal. Again, it's not about what we want to do. Of course, we all want to repeal Obamacare in its entirety. But it's about what we can do, what's possible. Otto von Bismarck, politics is the art of the possible. Strategy, in other words. And we want everything now is not a strategy, other than for catastrophic and permanent defeat. That appears to be elected Tea Partiers' objective in all of this, near as I can tell, if their actions are to be taken above their words, which strongly suggests that they either need a new strategy or they need to be gotten out of office before they can extinguish the conservative cause altogether. We'll be back. I had a chance to play saxophone on that song, believe it or not. For the, 6 weeks that I played in an actual jazz combo. Yeah, it would have been professional jazz combo. Of course, I had a chance to ask the bass player who recruited me into it, and then his friend had a friend whom Also played the saxophone, and that friend was the drummer of the group, and he hosted our practice, our rehearsals. He hosted our rehearsals, so he had more stroke than my friend did, but I still didn't appreciate being strong-armed out of the group. Of course, by the same token, that was a harbinger of things to come professionally for me later that year in 2013. So, but I gotta say that today I envy Mr. Gibbs. I don't envy his going bankrupt. I mean, he's on the edge of bankruptcy, personal bankruptcy, folks. But you talk about hanging by a thread, by a spaghetti strand. That's it's like Wile E. Coyote grabbing that little bush on the edge of the cliff, just waiting for the roadrunner to go beep, 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 and then, well, I got it right here. Beep, beep. It's getting that close for my friend, Mr. Gibbs. But today, I'll tell you what, he is getting all 3 meals purchased for him today. He gets to eat out 3 times today. Well, remember I mentioned the Constitution Tuesday post at politicalpistachio.com that he posted this morning? 8 o'clock this morning, he was at the Banning Beaumont Cherry Valley Tea Party Tuesday morning breakfast meeting at Farms House Restaurant. So he got, he got breakfast fed to him for free. And then 3 this afternoon, right as Heart Starboard Radio was coming on the air, he went to a late lunch meeting in Cherry Valley, so he got lunch bought for him. Someone always buys him his lunch or breakfast, or I guess they know that he's got no money, basically. And then after tonight's Corona Constitution class at All-Star Collision, 522 Railroad Street, Corona, California, at 6 p.m., Doug is going to the Corona. He's going to be speaking at the Corona Republican Women's Federated meeting at Marie Callender's in Corona, where somebody will undoubtedly buy him dinner. So my friend Doug Gibbs eats quite well for a man that has no money. Let's just put it that way. What did I have? Oh, what did I have for lunch? I had a 3-day-old leftovers and a little container of cup of soup. That's what I had. Well, yesterday I got my free jumbo jack for the Seahawks having futilely recorded 3 sacks of Cardinals quarterback Carson Palmer. So. And while I was there, I thought, well, I wanted to try their cheddar onion buttery jack burger. So, okay, so I did that. I did that, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see, is there anything am I skipping anything? Oh, yeah, I am skipping something, which I don't want to do. This is I'll tell you what. This is what Donald Trump said yesterday. And again, I swear I'm not making this up. The man that is in second place, trailing only Ben Carson for the Republican presidential nomination currently in the polls, said, "I am the best qualified to be commander-in-chief because I have an instinct for predicting terrorism." That's what he said. Hey, look at me. I mean, this is textbook typical Trump. narcissistic, attention-hogging, bombastic, and unserious. Now, he doesn't need a counter-terror. He doesn't need a counterterrorism policy if you listen to him, because he's a precognitive soothsayer when it comes to Islamic asymmetric warfare. Let me ask you, in all heart attack seriousness, Trumplicans, I invented a new term, Trumplican, are you really, truly willing to entrust your safety and the lives of your loved ones to this grandstanding buffoon? Newsmax provides the quote. As the hunt for the perpetrators of the attacks in Paris continues, see, there's another news story edit that they don't edit very well, do they? Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump said Monday that he is uniquely qualified to be commander-in-chief because he has an instinct for sensing threats. Maybe like Professor Xavier, he puts his 2 fingers to his temple and he can... In my book, I predicted terrorism because I could feel it, said Trump, speaking to thousands of supporters packed into Tennessee's Knoxville Convention Center. I could feel it like I feel a good location. Feel a good location. Well, there's all kinds of ways you could go with that comment. Trump, the billionaire businessman and former reality... No, he's not former anything on reality television star. Trust me. It's on display right now, folks. Was referring to a passage in one of his books, The America We Deserve, in which he warned of the threat posed by terrorism and referenced Osama bin Laden as a, and I quote, shadowy figure. The book was published in 2000 before the September 11th attacks, and Trump has taken to trumpeting, no pun intended, the passage to prove that despite his lack of foreign policy expertise or experience at all, he is qualified to be president. End of quote. But that's it? That's it? Everybody knew of the threat posed by jihadism prior to 9/11. We just didn't realize its magnitude and reach. And the best Trump can claim is that he predicted 9/11 by referring to Osama bin Laden as a shadowy figure? That was already... Hold on a second. Here, I'll give you a shadowy figure, folks. Now you see a shadowy figure. Is this what Donald Trump saw 15 years ago? Those of you on the Jasmius cam saw the point I was trying to make, the illustration, the visual illustration I was making. I mean, that Osama bin Laden was a shadowy figure was already known at the time, although he couldn't have been too shadowy if the Clinton administration had 3 separate opportunities to capture him but declined them all on lawfare grounds. And even that would not have averted the 9/11 operation, which was already in the works dating back to 1996. I'm more concerned with that... another typo. Hold on a second, folks. This will just be a jiffy. With what? Yeah, that's better. I'm more concerned with what a President Trump would do when that proverbial 3 a.m. phone call comes in rather than the prophetic content of his dreams. As to actual policy strategy, he's still dropping S-bombs. I'm going to bomb the shit out of those ISIS oil fields. Hey, everybody, we're all going to get laid! in conjunction with bombing ISIS oil fields and waxing bombastic about creating a big, beautiful safe zone in Syria as the basis for a real estate joke. No kidding. The punchline was, take a big swatch of land, which, believe me, you can get for the right price. Hey, I didn't dub Donald Trump the Al Shervick of the Republican 2016 field for nothing. Of course, there aren't any safe zones in Syria, and they can only be created by wiping out the Islamic State as well as the Assad regime in Damascus and driving the Russians and Iranians out of the country. And polls this week show Americans still obstinately and irrationally opposed to reinvading Iraq, even as they purport to demand actual resistance to the Islamic State. Bombing ain't gonna do the job. So clearly Trump has not thought these ravings through, but is selling pie in the sky without mentioning how expensive it will be or that his target audience already isn't buying those ingredients. As I say, textbook typical Trump. But I will give him credit for broaching the necessity of closing mosques around the country that are day-glow obvious jihadist cell headquarters, arms depots, ammunition dumps, and recruitment centers. But he'd never be able to follow through on it until after, maybe after an ISIS nuclear strike, and maybe not even after that. A reality that I'm sure Trumplicans also aren't considering. I don't know about them, but I would prefer a victorious war on terror to an entertaining one. And does this mean that, by the way, that Trump would put on Johnny Carson's old Karnak the Magnificent costume for counter-terrorism press conferences? Yeah, it might muss his toop, I guess. All right. Now we switch gears and we go to the Buckeye State. We go to the state, the home state of dear old Dad, originally, where 40 Ohio school districts will now be hard targets. What am I talking about? Well, I believe the old saying is fight fire with fire. A much more effective strategy than advertising schools' defenselessness. Defenselessness. Oy vey. Schools' defenselessness. With, this is a gun. Oh, jeez. Wow, sometimes I just am not paying attention when I'm clickety-clacking along in my laptop. I'll tell you that much right now. This is a gun-free zone, so much more effective strategy. Arming teachers is what we're talking about, and school administrators. That's a much more effective strategy than advertising schools' defenselessness with "this is a gun-free zone" signs on the whole. For the quote, we go to Newsmax.com. Roughly 40 school districts in Ohio allow teachers to pack concealed guns in the classroom. And more of them are getting trained on how to stop an active shooter. The safety of our kids should not be a controversial issue. This is not about guns. Jim Irvine of FasterSavesLives.org and the Buckeye Firearms Foundation told Fox News. For nearly 60 years, not one student has died from a fire. That is due to a redundant, overlapping approach to safety. we should be copying that same method for incidents of violence in our schools. You need something that is effective. Show us another method and we would invest in it. End of quote. Of course, left-wingnut gun restrictions aren't meant to be effective because they are ideologically driven. Real-world, on-the-ground results are irrelevant to them. Reality must be conformed to their narrative, not the reverse, no matter how many, in this case, teachers, administrators, and school children have to perish. Additionally, like with every other incarnation and manifestation of gun control, the implication of gun-free zones is that teachers, administrators, and school children ought... this is an example of, I had one thought and then I thought of a different way to phrase it and then I just didn't edit out the extraneous word. Like with every other incarnation and manifestation of gun control, the implication of gun-free zones is that teachers, administrators, and school children are the suspects, or ought to be seen as the suspects and potential criminals and perpetrators of gun violence, and must therefore be disarmed and kept that way. No thought at all is given to anybody outside the schools who may not be too particularly heedful of gun laws, and might have a macabre fondness for human target practice, and is or are sufficiently literate to be able to read "This is a gun-free zone" advertisements. And might have a macabre fondness for human target practice. There's another old saying that goes, mutually assured destruction. In the Cold War, i.e. World War III, it was the basis for the very successful deterrence policy that was the reason that Cold War never turned nuclear hot. The same principle applies in the microcosm as it does in the macrocosm. If a would-be active shooter knows that a particular school, like the ones in these 40 Ohio school districts, are not gun-free zones, and that teachers and administrators conceal and carry, and the wannabe gunman does not and cannot know which ones are and which ones, if any, aren't, they will be less likely to go on a bloody killing spree in that particular school, or to attempt to do so. They'll look for targets that they know are soft, like ones that advertise themselves as gun-free zones. It is indeed not about guns. It is about common sense. And if common sense were as plentiful as guns in this country, there wouldn't be any gun violence problem. Or at least a much smaller one. Hopefully, more school districts around the country will follow Ohio's example. You know, every time there's one of these active shooting incidents, especially in a school, you know what comes to my mind? Those school children, you know what they are? They're bait. They're bait for the gun grabbers. They advertise that schools are soft targets where everybody there is defenseless, teachers, administrators, students, the janitor. And then that attracts active shooters, and then there's an active shooting incident, and then the gun grabbers say, see, we need to confiscate all guns. They're using school children as bait. That's what they're doing. These people are despicable. Yes, that's right. You're despicable. That's right, I said it. Little Mark Levin for your Tuesday afternoon. Well, the Kremlin has confirmed that ISIS did indeed bomb that Russian plane out of the air over the Sinai, and Vladimir Putin has vowed revenge. Retribution, which, if you're talking about the leader of a nuclear power, then that's a reason to take him seriously. The other reason, of course, is that Putin actually means it. Now, Putin, I talked about last week or the week before about how Vladimir Putin was trying to reel in the Egyptians back into the Russian orbit by stalling on the investigation of the cause of the crash of that Russian passenger airliner over the Sinai. And it was, he bought him 10 extra days, I guess. But the evidence of an ISIS bombing was conclusive 2 weeks ago, and in the wake of the Paris attacks, with ISIS already having drawn Russian blood prior to last Friday, the Russian strongman has evidently decided that the propaganda benefits of declaring war on the Islamic State now outweigh any further progress he can make on luring Egypt into Russian satellite status for now. Yet he won't give up, of course. And unlike pusillanimous, pissant Western leaders, quote-unquote, the JV team has every reason to take Tsar Vlad's threat deadly seriously. You stay at Newsmax for the quote. President Vladimir Putin vowed to hunt down those responsible for blowing up a Russian airliner over Egypt and intensify airstrikes against Islamists in Syria after the Kremlin concluded a bomb had destroyed the plane last month, killing 224 Russians, including men, women, and children. We will find them anywhere on the planet and punish them, Putin said at a somber Kremlin meeting broadcast on Tuesday. The FSB security service, the successor to the KGB, announced a $50 million bounty on the bombers. Until now, Russia had played down assertions from Western countries that the October 31st crash was the work of terrorists, saying it was important to let the official investigation run its course. In other words, try to lure the Egyptians in by not contributing to the collapse of their tourist industry. But 4 days after ISIS gunmen and bombers killed at least 129 people in Paris, Alexander Bortnikov, the head of the FSB, told a late-night meeting that traces of foreign-made explosive had been found on fragments of the downed plane and on passengers' personal belongings. According to an analysis by our specialists, a homemade bomb containing up to 1 kilogram of TNT detonated during the flight, causing the plane to break up in midair, which explains why parts of the fuselage were spread over such a large distance, said Bortnikov at the meeting in footage released by the Kremlin. We can unequivocally say it was a terrorist act. Close quote. Putin is sounding, dare I say it, Bush-esque in his declaration, and twice as serious about it. He's invoked Russia's right to self-defense under the United Nations Charter, which gives him more or less carte blanche to send Russian forces anywhere on the planet under the pretext of pursuing the Islamic State. That could be interesting if one of their cells based in the United States had anything to do with it. It could lead to a scene like the opening scene from the original Red Dawn movie, actually. But here's another thought. Might just... Another typo. Another typo. It shouldn't take much to fix. Ping. Might just this scenario have been why the Russians didn't initially bomb Islamic State territory? Starting back in September? I mean, if Putin had done that, he would have been seen as following along in the United States' policy wake, right? Following Obama's lead, even if it isn't real. This way, Putin and the Russians take the lead against ISIS in a way that he knows Barack Obama will never emulate and can be counted on to impotently oppose. And his forces can now go anywhere they want with all the moral authority in the world. Indeed, they can start peeling France's allegiances away from NATO and make common cause with the French against a very proximate common enemy, since the one can be counted on to do precisely nothing on Paris's behalf. It'll be interesting to see just how disproportionate the Russian retaliation is. Very interesting. I don't know if they possess neutron warheads, but if I were Vladimir Putin, and I had that particular, what they're called enhanced radiation warheads, if I had that in my arsenal, if I were Vlad, that would be my weapon of choice. Slaughtering every ISIS jihadist in Raqqa, Syria, their capital, self-styled, and leaving the buildings and infrastructure intact, or at least more intact than a standard nuke would. That would be the ultimate strong horse statement that could be made against the global jihad. And against us, by the way. Yeah, that'd be another case of a twofer. You know, striking a killing blow against ISIS all at once and sending a message to Barack Hussein Obama. Hold on. I had to wipe off a splotch on my glasses, ladies and gentlemen. Why do you wear contacts? Why don't you get LASIK? Well, contacts are too much upkeep, and there's no way I'm voluntarily letting people shoot lasers at my eyes. Now, you may have read about this story, but it's here again, it's consistent. It's consistent with Barack Obama's Islamophilia. There was a break-in at an armory in Massachusetts in which a large number of assault rifles, military assault rifles, the equivalent of the AK-47, were stolen. Nobody knows how they got in. Nobody knows who got in. Nobody knows where or the whereabouts of these the military assault weapons. Massachusetts state officials are concerned. The FBI field office in Boston is concerned. You know who's not concerned? Barack Obama. I'm not making this up, folks. You stay at Newsmax for the quote. Without saying why it is so sure, you think that would be kind of important to lend credibility when you're going to go out there and say that they're sure that jihadists have nothing to do with this. The FBI in Washington claims there is no terrorism link to high-caliber military weapons stolen in a break-in at an armory in Massachusetts, including assault rifles and handguns, but Governor Charlie Baker, Republican, I might add, and the Boston special agent in charge don't seem so certain. Telling you. The governor was immediately informed of the Saturday arms theft, and additional police have been stationed around Worcester, It'd be Worcester, I guess, where the looted armory is located until further notice. There is no indication that these missing weapons are connected to any kind of terrorism threat whatsoever, claimed FBI spokeswoman Kristen Satira in a statement obtained by the Boston Globe. Nevertheless, every effort will be made to recover these weapons immediately, blah, blah, blah. No indication that they yet have, or even more ominously, no indication that they're willing to admit to. I mean, if it's that they don't yet have an indication, one would think that they would not publicly dismiss any possibility and emphasize that they were already investigating the Armory break-in and weapons heist. However, if there's no indication that they're willing to publicly admit to, they'd most likely be saying precisely what they're saying. And I'm sure you can all fill in the rest of those dots. Now, Governor Baker, as has already become the case with state governors around the country, that's up to 26, by the way. Not Colorado, though. John Hickenlooper says, come on in to ISIS. He's invited ISIS to just relocate. I mean, after what the Russians are going to do to them, come on into Colorado. We'll take you in. But 26 state governors now. It's up to 26 that are saying, no, you're not dumping any Syrian refugees in our states. Baker said he was worried about such military-grade weapons being on the streets there, according to WCVB television. I'm especially concerned about it, said Baker. Separate and apart from anything that has to do with terrorism, I'm concerned about the fact that some really high-caliber weapons were stolen from a military facility in the first place. That's a good point. That's an excellent point. And I would think so. But the surrounding context requires that this theft be looked at as terrorism-related first and foremost. It would be insane to approach this incident any other way. And, of course, the Obama FBI is not approaching it that way. I tell you, the type of insanity at play I'll leave to your imaginations, but I know toward which direction I'm leaning. And here's a thought. If the Paris attacks get reprised in Boston as a result of this Armory heist, will leftwingnut shy away from pushing the gun control angle because even it would be too Islamophobic? We got time for this one. Bye-bye Health Republic. Now, you may be saying, what the hell is Health Republic? Health Republic was the largest Obamacare co-op in the state of New York. Yeah, this Obamacare co-op collapse is especially noteworthy for two particular reasons. One, it's New York's biggest, and two, it was flush with taxpayer cash only a year ago. Only a year ago. Oh my goodness, this is from Syracuse.com. Health Republic of New York made a big splash when it debuted in 2014. 2014! With rock-bottom health insurance premiums that undercut its competitors across the state. And I need to fix one more typo. Hopefully it's the last one. Its premium rates were 30% below average in Onondaga County. The new company, backed with $265 million, so over $250 million in federal loans, which they'd never have to pay back, quickly captured the biggest, well, what do you know, Shazam! Captured the biggest share of new business on the state's health insurance cartel created by the Federal Unaffordable Care Act, also known as ObamaCare. End of quote. You know, isn't that what used to be known as predatory pricing? Is that the sort of thing that monopolies used to do? Aren't there antitrust laws against that sort of thing? Well, of course there are. It's just that the federal government is exempt from them. And state governments too, apparently. But this is also that same untenable business model, quote unquote, of confiscating market share at the expense of any even remotely hypothetical possibility of reaping any profit from it because of the tsunami of cost from the stampede of old and sick people that rushed in to sign up. But is Health Republic going down alone? What do you think? Now we go to another story at Syracuse.com. New York hospitals and doctors are worried they may be left holding the bag for millions of dollars owed to them by Health Republic. The financially troubled health insurer. Who'd have thunk it? The financially troubled health insurer regulators are shutting down November 30th. Hospitals are owed more than $160 million. According, so if they started out with $265 million in federal money and they can't pay $160 million, do you realize that just in New York State, in the space of 1 year, that's over $400 million that this co-op lost in 1 calendar year. Net! Hospitals are owed more than $160 million, according to the Healthcare Association of New York State. HANIS for short, acronymically speaking, a hospital trade group. Syracuse's 3 hospitals are owed $2.2 million. The State Medical Society is surveying doctors to find out how much they are owed. It estimates the insurer owes doctors tens of millions of dollars. And you know, when hospitals can't pay their bills and doctors can't pay their bills, what tends to happen? They tend to go out of business, don't they? Thus does supply of medical services contract. And when that happens, what happens then? You know what happens. The price goes up. You know, you expand demand or contract supply, and the price is going to go up. It's not difficult to figure out. Just look at a graph. Hospitals and physicians are demanding that Albany reimburse them for the $160 million tab Health Republic ran up, which seems fair as far as it goes, especially since New York is among the bluest of states and whose voters can therefore be said to have brought it on themselves. But guess who is opposing this demand? Private health insurance carriers, whose own federal bailout program is now expired and isn't being renewed. Why, they ask, should taxpayers bail out medical providers for all the business the state of New York stole from us when we're not being extended the same courtesy? That seems fair also, as far as it goes. But everybody knows that ultimately it's the taxpayers, but not me, since I haven't had any income for a year and a half, who are going to be paying for the entire ObamaCare disaster from sea to impoverished sea, and afflicted sea, infected sea, excuse me, that's what I was looking for, the word I was looking for, no matter how it turns out. And are there any Obamacare co-ops, by the way, that haven't collapsed? And is it a good sign that all private health insurance carriers are still in business, or is it just a matter of time before they implode as well? Yeah, the other one would have been appropriate, I suppose. But at any rate, here we get, finally, the title item on the stack. Saved it for last today. Yeah, you got to see the graphic I posted at politicalpistachio.com. It shows Barack Obama in one of those Muslim headdresses, and it says, Islam's Trojan horse. And a quote from Barack Obama when he said, I will stand with the Muslims should the political winds shift in an ugly direction. Well, he's been standing with them regardless of the wind, so I'm not sure. Even in that, he hasn't been completely honest. But I'll tell you, I'll tell you what is un-American. Want to know what's un-American? The Obama administration accepts 40 times, 40 times as many Syrian Muslim refugees as Syrian Christians and other assorted religious minorities who are the victims of the Muslims, as it happens. As another Obama internet meme remarks, it's one of the few promises he's ever kept. Now, there is a saying, there are lies, there are damned lies, and then there are statistics. But these numbers are awfully difficult to spin away. Stay at Newsmax for the final quote of the day. Okay, no, that's right. The current system of admitting refugees to the United States unintentionally discriminates against Christians, with Christians making up less than 3% of the Syrian refugees allowed into the country and 96% Muslim, government figures show. Unintentionally, my ass. Even if you made it a quota based upon the original Syrian population, it would still be outrageously lopsided. And remember that every Syrian Muslim refugee is at least a potential jihadist, and if you fully understand that term and the breadth of its application, they all fit that description. Not necessarily all wielding guns and blowing themselves up, but there's more than one kind of aggressive jihad, ladies and gentlemen. You want to know more about that? Go to politicalpistachio.com. Look up European Muslim migrants, rape, and spit. It was a post from Mr. Gibbs from late last week. He goes into how there's a term for just inundating a targeted country, an infidel country. You know, not invading it with guns and bombs and what have you, but just a mass influx, like what's happening in Europe, actually. Finishing out the Newsmax quote, Christian News Service, citing new State Department figures released Monday, reports of the 2,184 Syrian refugees admitted to the United States so far. Oh, that low? Wow, I thought it was more than that. Only 53 are Christians, while 2,098 are Muslim. The remaining 33 include 1 Yazidi, 8 Jehovah's Witnesses, 2 Baha'i, 6 Zoroastrians, 6 of other religions, 7 of no religion, and 3 atheists, CNS reports. By comparison, Syria's population in early 2011, before the civil war and rise of ISIS that triggered a mass exodus, was 90% Muslim and 10% Christian. The State Department figures come as Barack Obama called as shameful the calls by some for admitting only Christian Syrians into the country. You know, the victims of the worst religious cleansing ever, or since the Holocaust anyway. Religious cleansing, cultural cleansing, ethnic cleansing, total cleansing. Come on, Barry. It would only be 160. It would only have been 165 fewer Muslims and the same additional number of Christians by the quota system, something with which you should certainly be familiar in an in an affirmative action context. How can that be shameful when it is Christians who are the chief victims and Muslims their victimizers? Christians who have been all but exterminated throughout Syria and Iraq and are under the most ferocious persecution they suffered around the world since Roman times. And the best part would be that the term Christian terrorists is an oxymoron. Can the Muslims say that? No, they cannot. So how is it in our national security interests to import tens of thousands of jihadists by the 10% rule? If you those 2,098 Syrian refugees, approximately 210 of them can be counted on to be jihadists. Violent jihadists by the 10% rule. It's 210 too many. So how is it in our national security interest to import tens of thousands of jihadists, and I say tens of thousands because the Obama administration is planning on accepting several 100,000 more Syrian refugees into this country. So by the 10% rule, that's tens of thousands of jihadists into the United States against the clear and expressed will of the American people. And how is it consistent with the American values that Obama keeps yammering about to import tens or hundreds of thousands of invaders from an imperialistic, conquering alien culture that is intractably hostile to American values? Unless, of course, these American values are Obama's own and not the... Oh, another typo. And not the real, there we go, and not the real traditional values, American values, to which he himself has displayed and expressed such deep-seated hostility. Fundamental transformation indeed, folks. Fundamental transformation indeed. He's not changing his policy. He's not changing anything. He's not interested in American leadership. He's not interested in America winning. And he wants to import more and more and more Muslims into this country. Now, I have said on many an occasion, I don't think Barack Obama is a Muslim himself. I don't think he'd take the demotion under Allah. Barack Obama worships Barack Obama and nobody and nothing else. And he expects and demands, there's an executive order to it, I'm sure, that we all worship him as well. But, you got to wonder. I don't think Obama's a Muslim, but he's certainly a jihadi simp. And he said he will stand with the Muslims. He's been standing with them all along. And the political direction has definitely gotten ugly because of them and him. We'll be back tomorrow, 22 hours and 2 minutes from now. blogtalkradio.com/HSR Network. More of the Hard Starboard Radio Network. Have a great evening.